Hello, buddies.
Hey everyone.
This is my dad. He joined me for this video. We're going to talk about the originals and the remakes, Texas Chainsaw Massacres. If you look behind my dad's head, there's the poster for the original. So since we don't have it, there's an exception. Well, let's get started with. I have part 2 right here. What did you think about part 2, Dad?
I thought it was okay. Dennis Hopper was pretty crazy in it.
Well, his kids did die.
Does that make him crazy because he died?
No, not him. His children, his grandnephews were like Franklin and Sally. And Sally got all cut up. Franklin got chainsawed in half, and his body was never found.
Yeah, so we should probably talk about the first one so people know what you're talking about right now.
Yes, the original.
So the original Texas Chainsaw. What were your thoughts on that?
Incredible movie. At the end, I was rooting Sally, please win.
So for people who don't know about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because people just have an idea of what the movie is based on the title, tell them what the plot is.
5, I don't know what their age is, like teenagers?
Teenagers, yeah.
Yeah. Go to Texas to make sure their grandpa's grave has not been wrecked. They go to their old house, and then they find this old farmhouse, which includes a family of cannibals and psychopathic killers. One thing this is not...
A typical house in Texas.
Yes. Except inside, it kind of, a little crazy looking. But one thing this is not is a gore fest. It's not really... It was actually meant to get a PG rating.
Yeah, so surprisingly, for a movie called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there's no gore in this movie.
Maybe like a single droplet, like when Kirk is on the floor and there's a little bit of blood on his head on his stomach. And a tiny, tiny speckle of blood comes off in a chainsaw kill. But there's only one chainsaw kill, actually.
Yeah, very little chainsaw usage in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Most of them, 2 are hammers and 1 is a meat hook. So.
Yeah.
And even those are off screen.
So the movie hooks you, especially if you're hammered.
Tell us the names, Dad.
Oh dear. He's doing this because I'm terrible with character names. Franklin is the guy in the wheelchair. There's Pam.
I remember her because she turns into ham.
Sally.
Main character protagonist.
Is there someone named Brian?
No.
Did I just make that up?
There's Kirk and Jerry. Jerry looks like disco guy with disco hair, and Kirk's the guy who gets killed in the open.
Do any of the movies have someone named Brian?
Don't think so.
Okay. So there's no one named Brian in the movie.
Maybe in the beginning, but I don't remember any of their names.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, spoiler alert if you've not seen the movie, skip ahead a little bit. At the end of the film, they have an uncomfortable dinner party with the family of cannibals, and then Sally escapes, kills the hitchhiker with a big truck, and escapes screaming bloody murder.
Now, the hitchhiker, because we never mentioned him before, is in the Sawyer family, so he is a bad guy. Sally didn't just escape and kill a hitchhiker. She killed the hitchhiker, who is one of the villains in the movie.
If you look at the poster, he's the guy who kind of has that, who's at that side right there. Right there.
Okay, and then we have part 2, which we were talking about earlier.
And it's a drastically... Before we start that, what was your thoughts on the original?
My thoughts on the original, when you compare it to horror movies these days, it's very tame. It's a little boring. The acting isn't that great. It is kind of hard to watch, but you have to appreciate it for what it is. The time it came out, and it was a huge landmark movie for the horror genre. So many horror directors admire this movie, and they were encouraged to make their own horror movies after the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So you have to appreciate it for what it did to the horror genre. But as a movie and on its own, I found it a little difficult to watch.
Like, what do you mean?
Like boring.
Yes, I will admit, when there's nothing like in a Leatherface family point of view, it's pretty boring, but near the final act, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, but even the intense dinner scene, and the most famous scene in the movie, that just drags on and on and on.
And actually, one thing that annoyed me about it, Sally just screams the entire movie.
Yeah,
That's why
that poor actor.
That's why I enjoy Candyman, because when she sees him, she doesn't go ah. She's like in a fainting zone, but she's still alive. Like, it's so weird.
And that was our random horror movie mention of the day, Candyman. All right, Texas Chainsaw Part 2.
This movie is drastically different. The opening scene is nothing like you would see before. In the original, it's a whole bunch of body parts pictures and then a whole bunch of gravestones. Oh, body parts on gravestones. This one, the opening scene is these two little punks shooting at road stuff, like pew, 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 pew.
We don't need to tell them the whole movie.
I know.
But just in general, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, I think people realized, hey, if we're going to call a movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we need a lot more chainsaws. And this movie delivers.
Yes. Instead of there being more hammer kills. Now, me and Dad had a problem with one kill, but it was pretty funny. The hammer hit with LG.
The hammer. So this guy
LG
is getting hit in the head repeatedly with a hammer.
100 times.
So many times. And he just keeps riling on the ground, getting hit in the head by this hammer. And he survives.
And then he gets skinned alive. And then he's like, come on, Jordan.
Yeah, so this guy would not be alive, but we can let that go for the purposes of this horror movie. As I said earlier, Dennis Hopper is absolutely insane in this movie, but if any actor's going to do that well, it's Dennis Hopper. If this movie were made today, I would say that role could be played very well by Nicolas Cage.
There was one emotional sequence with Dennis Hopper when he sees Franklin. Remember his body? Franklin's like...
Yeah, and
it was emotional.
He uses the term emotional very loosely. There's very little emotion in this movie.
Most of it's just like, ah!
Dennis Hopper goes crazy with two chainsaws. He's double fisting the chainsaws, going after the villains. But this movie's a lot more gruesome.
Even the trailer says anyone under 17 is not admitted to this performance.
Yeah, which was common back then.
Yes, really common, because in the olden days, gore could mean big, big problems. So yes.
All right, and that's part 2. Anything else you want to say about part 2?
I have to say a couple. One, if you guys do not like, if you guys like serious movies, this is not the movie for you. This is a silly comedy. Pretty much.
I wouldn't call it a comedy.
Well, it's kind of.
It's comical to watch it now because you can see how silly it is. At the time, they were making a horror movie, but it's not a comedy. Don't let him lie to you.
It's kind of comical if you watch it. Like
These days, it's comical.
And there's a couple of jokes now and there, like when Chop Top grabs the hat of LG's and then skips away going yeehaw, and then you hear like a cowboy music. Last thing, the final act. Spoiler alert, skip pretty far ahead because this is a big act. Dennis Hopper, Lefty, finds the family, chainsaws one guy's butt, impales Leatherface with a chainsaw, and then the entire place blows up. Stretch and Chopped Off are left to do acrobatics on bridges.
Yeah, so they're at this abandoned carnival.
What the heck? Don't worry, just talk.
They're at an abandoned carnival, and that's where the whole final act takes place. The Sawyers have taken refuge in this carnival where nobody can find them. And
They captured a radio DJ,
Stretch, that's her name. I couldn't remember.
Caroline Williams.
Shout out to Caroline Williams. So Caroline Williams, Stretch, she climbs to the top of this mountain in the carnival, and LG.
LG's dead.
Who's the guy?
Dennis?
No, the guy's chasing her up there, the acrobat.
Oh, Chop Top.
Chop Top. I can't remember any of these names.
Okay.
He's chasing her up there, and he's like climbing up the railings and flipping over the stairs, and gets to the top, and
Wait.
What?
Before we start, one thing, there's a good amount of funny. To me, it's comical, this ending, because he's just cutting her like crazy, and there's not even a single droplet of blood that drips from her wounds. And then she bites his arm like a cannibal, and then bites his ear. So, like, I think she's turning into one of them.
Yeah, she went all Mike Tyson on him. All right, and she kicks his butt. Let's just say that. We won't spoil anything. We recommend watching the movie. It's kind of silly, unrealistic, but it's fun, and they have a good time. You can tell they were having fun making the movie. And if you've ever seen a Dennis Hopper movie, you should watch this, because he's crazy, and you can tell he was letting loose and having a good time.
And also, funny enough, Dennis Hopper said that this was his worst movie he worked on. In the 90s, when he did the Super Mario Bros. Movie, he changed his mind in the second he watched it.
Yeah, Super Mario Brothers. That's a whole other video.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, next.
The remakes.
The remakes.
I feel like we should start with the beginning.
Well, how about we start the way they came out?
Sure. 2003's remake, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake.
Personally, it's my dad's favorite.
I loved this remake. This is one of my favorite horror movie remakes ever.
With Friday.
Well, we're not talking about that.
Yes.
This is one of my favorite remakes ever. I thought they made it really dark and gritty. They really know how to build tension in this movie.
What do you mean by gritty? Oh, like gory or something like that?
No, just gritty, like dark and creepy and atmospheric.
The original had something like gritty realism because it had so many bones, not really gore.
Yeah, and that's just
a whole other story.
Set decoration. That's not gritty.
Well, they're real animal bones, so
yes.
That's what I can say about that.
But the remake is just great. The characters are great. The acting is great. They have some of the best casting, especially with Sheriff Hoyt. He's just amazing.
R.E. Ermey, I'm pretty sure. R.E. Ermey, I'm pretty sure. If I'm not pronouncing it right, do not get offended. R. Lee Ermey, okay.
R. Lee Ermey.
Okay.
And you might know him, children, from the voice of the Sergeant in Toy Story. The little toy soldiers, he's the sergeant's voice.
Ooh, yes. He is? I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, now I love R. Lee Ermey even more in the movies. This movie's a lot more graphic, so if you like the original because it was not so graphic, this one you might have to wait a little bit.
This one's definitely a true gory horror movie.
And also, when you see that inspired by a true story, it was only loosely based, the entire story, by Ed Gein.
Most movies that say inspired by a true story are only loosely based.
Nothing are exactly like it.
And I think people know that, especially if it says inspired by a true story. If it says based on a true story, that's more true to life. But if it says inspired by a true story, that just means somebody heard about something that happened once and they made their own script around the idea. So anyway, your thoughts on the remake?
In some sequences, I noticed it was in the original, it's too dark. In scenes that it's nighttime, I like the lighting better, because in the original, it's just darkness and all you can see is a couple trees and her and Leatherface. running around the woods. But the ending.
So are you saying the lighting is better in the remake?
Yes.
Okay.
The lighting's a lot, but during the day it looks too bright. I know they're in Texas, but like it looks too like polished. Like they're in Texas, like every house, every place you see is pretty much looking polished. When there's no meat factory or any of that, it should be like there should be like a couple of homeless people living on the ground.
Well,
Maybe.
No, they're kind of in an abandoned town, though. Everybody's left this town except their family, right? The whole town's been abandoned.
And the hitchhiker, when they pick up that, is a whole new story.
A whole new story.
I like that big shot. Remember that shot we loved?
Oh, I remember. It's one of my favorites.
I'm not going to spoil it, but the final act with Leatherface versus the main character, Jessica Biel's character, Aaron, there's it, is very good final act. To me, I enjoyed the. I don't know if this is spoiling, but I like the original because it's like. Wait.
It's fine.
Okay. In the original, Sally escapes, but Leatherface is still alive, and not just that. He's pissed. He's dancing around, swinging his chainsaw like he wants to cut off someone's head 10 times.
Yeah, it's one of the most iconic shots of the original movie. It ends with Leatherface doing his chainsaw dance because he's so mad that she gets away.
Yes. I wonder how his family felt. Remember how Drayden was just beating him up because of the tape?
The remake's the same, though. Leatherface is left alive.
Yes. But he has a better...
She makes sure he's unarmed at the end.
That's better.
Unarmed. He's one-armed.
Yes, he gets his arm cut off. But he is alive when you last see him. Well, he has a possibility of dying. Actually, no, in the video camera shots, he's alive.
Remember? The sheriff documentary, how the movie starts and ends?
Oh, yeah, that's
So he's definitely still alive at the end of the movie.
And he's pissed again.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to the... Wait. Before we do this, okay, we can do this. I have the unrated... We have the unrated version of the beginning. Sorry, it's falling. The back looks kind of cool. It's all gory. This movie's a lot more gory than all of them.
Yeah.
So this one's even more grisly than the remakes.
Because these are more modern movies.
Yes.
So the gore factor has to be taken up a level for any sequels. This is a prequel. And it has the same actors playing the Sawyer family. Arlie Ermey's back, and he's better than ever.
It's not the Sawyer family, it's Hewitts. Remember in the remakes of Hewitts?
Oh, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, don't worry. In this one, it actually gives some backstory to the characters, like how Arlie Ermey Sheriff Hoyt does not act like, or even act like a sheriff. He
gives everyone a backstory.
Like how he lost his teeth, the legs getting, like, the shortened legs of that uncle dude.
Yeah.
It goes, the way I predict it is you watch the beginning before the remake. That's how I put it. Why?
Because that's not how it was released.
I know, but...
That's how the story is. But the whole point is they made this after the remake. And you're supposed to watch it after, and then it fills in the blanks. That's what makes it more enjoyable.
Okay.
Always watch movies in the order they come out. A good example is Star Wars. Yes. You watch episodes 4, 5, and 6 before 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, okay. I can admit to that. Oh, boy.
All right, any other thoughts on the beginning?
One thing is the kills are ranked up to 11. I love every kill in this movie stands out because it's all torture. Like when the girl gets his teeth pulled out.
Yeah.
And definitely that one kill and I'm not gonna talk too much because it's so gory on the butcher table.
Yeah.
That one is disturbing.
There's a lot more gore in this movie. More explicit visual, bloody scenes. So definitely not a movie to watch for the faint of heart.
Yes. Any thoughts on yours? I'm going to put these away.
I really enjoyed the beginning. I like all of the actors. I love gore, so obviously that was a big thing for me. And one thing to remember with Texas Chainsaw the beginning, since it's a prequel, you have to remember in the next one, um, nobody knows about the Hewitt family. So you have to know that going into the beginning. So obviously, there's not a lot of hope for people in the movie.
I just want to bring this in because it's the last one we have. Well, besides Letterface, but I'm not seeing it, so I can't really talk. Texas Chainsaw. Now, this is gorier than all of them.
Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Or just Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
This movie's gorier than all of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big sawing in half, a meat hook hang. All the kills in this movie I can remember, but there's only like 3 kills I can remember. The end credits kills. And the one I'm pretty sure it's Ozzy who gets like that pitchfork through him. That's not gory.
Okay.
But everything else is like gore fest. All I'm gonna say about the final act, wood chipper.
Yeah, it really grinds.
Yes. You could say it's a grindhouse area near the end. I do enjoy the plot though, how they're trying to make him an anti-hero and you're meant to, instead of rooting for the survivor.
So they kind of made this a sequel to the original. So
40 years later,
this girl finds out she's the granddaughter of this woman who died.
Verna.
And she's left the estate. So she travels down to Texas to see this estate for this grandmother she never even knew existed. And it's this big, beautiful house.
Mansion.
She can't even believe how lucky she is. This random lady who was her grandmother she never knew about left her this beautiful big house. So she goes down with some friends and they investigate the house and look around and see how beautiful it is.
There's a trap door.
And it seems that Leatherface is also in this house and he's been living there all this time. So she meets Leatherface, and they all meet Leatherface. And meeting Leatherface is never a fun experience.
Well, besides for her, because she's the cousin of Leatherface.
She's family.
Yes, so family. But she has to explain that to Leatherface. Jedediah, that's his new name, not the kid from the remake. If you're watching the remake before this, do not think Jedediah is a younger Leatherface. No.
Okay.
But what do you have to say about this movie? Because I enjoyed it. It was
Yeah,
good.
no, I thought it was fine. I thought it was a nice idea to do a direct sequel to the original, and I thought it was an interesting idea that all this time the woman had been keeping Leatherface alive and feeding him and keeping him safe, and the idea that he respects family. I like that.
One thing there's clues to tell that she's the cousin of Leatherface throughout the film, like when she's making that bone art in like the opening scene and stuff, and how like they're always like I'm pretty sure like near the beginning they're like, oh, they want us to cut some boil some meat and cut it, and like she's like, yeah, sure. So it's like you could get, if you watch the movie and watch it again, you can get extra clues. And then, like, you could be like, oh, that's how you can get it. So, yeah, that's how I got it. I didn't get it that way. It took me a while to figure out. But, any other things to say?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, then. Well...
But that's our collection of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. There's another movie called Leatherface. That's an origin movie. Mason has not seen that yet, so we can't really discuss it.
Yeah. I've only seen a little bit, because I watched a little bit with my mom.
Maybe we'll watch it today.
I was thinking we would watch The Thing.
Okay, whatever.
Who cares? It's a good movie.
But, if you're into horror movies, Texas Chainsaw Massacre series is definitely something you should check out if you've never seen them. Start with the originals, then look at the remakes, watch them in order. They all have something very good to offer the horror genre.
Yes, like even the Next Generation. That one was not Matthew McConaughey's in it, and he didn't want it to show again.
Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger, before they got famous, did this terrible, terrible sequel.
But one thing I can admit is pretty good with its standard of Matthew McConaughey being crazy. Dennis Hopper first was crazy. Now it's Matthew McConaughey, so I'll give him that.
All right, so definitely check these movies out. Boom. Thank you for watching today.
And one thing, Part 3 has a young Viggo Mortensen.
Okay.
Just
anything else you want to say randomly?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Then goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Now you will be with me. Just kidding.